Andre DeQuisto. I'm the founder of Lone Wolf Portable Tree Stands, Lone Wolf Custom Gear.
All right, well, we got Dan on the line.
And I started thinking, I probably shouldn't have shared those pictures. But
All right, guys, we got Don Higgins on.
Anything that's got to do with chasing big deer, I've got my hands in it somehow. So.
Well, my name's John Eberhardt. The first one that comes to mind was early in my career.
I'm Scott Buckley from Iowa. I had jumped him in the summer, too. He jumped up in that swamp grass down in the bottom lake.
And, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm chasing it. There ain't nothing stopping me.
Justin Hollinsworth. I'm with Whitetail Addictions and Lone Wolf Custom Gear.
So what are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about the one that got away.
They talked about a deer that you didn't get it done on for some reason. So go ahead and get into the story of the one that got away.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes with a juicy legend of the woods.
Ooh,
this time of the year is when you're supposed to celebrate the kills throughout the season, right? So we're going to come back hard on the legend of the woods because I feel like this is the time people are sharing stories of their kills. They're celebrating, telling their buddies, man, look at this buck I got done. And we're really going to try to find those just really unique bucks that we want to hear the story on social media and come at you guys. And we're starting off with a badass buck. We're starting off with Kyle, who killed Ed. You guys have probably seen this buck. What do you say, 115 on one side, 115 inches on one side?
Yeah.
4 drop tines, and the other side's just like a giant club that went out and then went down, had a brow tine. Super badass, dark chocolate. Kind of a really unique story. Like not a lot of bucks.
Crazy encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no...
Five encounters in 7 days. I mean, that's insane, man. But hope you guys really enjoy it. And we know a lot of people love the Legends of the Woods. But how many requests have we got? Like, gotta bring a Legend of the Woods back.
Yeah, are you guys doing any more of these, or is this dead?
I'm like, well, it's there, brother. We're just getting through some content. The off season, I feel like, is the best time to do that. You get all those stories of those bucks that people want to know more about, and they just got a picture online. And this way, you know, we can bring it out to people.
We got to let the season play out. Could be a legend getting dropped here coming up January 7th.
And we didn't want to leave anybody out, so we finally got a crossbow legend. We were looking for a crossbow legend for a long time. We've had shotgun, gun, muzzleloader, bow, traditional bow, crossbow. No legends left out. It doesn't matter what you kill them with. If you kill an absolute legend, we're gonna have you on. So this was remember last year? We gotta find a crossbow legend to have on. You know, just so we're not leaving anybody out. I feel like that's important. But let's get into people that make this possible. We're gonna get up with the show. All right, what you got, homie?
Starting off this week with Exodus trail cameras, bringing you the trail camera tip of the week. Don't be slacking off on running the cams. Just because you never know, gathering this intel this year, you never know what next year is going to bring, and you might have to be out there doing the late season grind. And if you keep running the cams, you still have that intel to bank off of from this year for next year, if that so happens to be the case.
Did you get the swooping 8 picture on the north in daylight?
The swooping 8 picture on the
8-pointer that had the main beam that went way up. Is kind of way off in the distance.
The
I
urban?
sent it to you. No, this is on the camera on the north. That's angled, messed up.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, damn, that's pretty solid buck. He's there at like 415. I'm like, and he's coming in weird. I'm like, for where he's at, I'm like, that deer is in there.
Was he going north in that pic?
Yeah, he's going north, angling like this. So I'm like, that deer is bedded right in there. And that tree, you could have killed him in. And that's just like, we're just trying some random ass spots. The other spot is just loaded with does. And they daylight every doe. And that one, it's massive.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, there's so many does up in here. Well, now we know, hella doe bedding right there. We get on the downwind side of that. Everything running out of that no hunting.
Right
up into that doe bedding. I think that's why that post is so rubbed and on fire. Oh, don't let me forget that you got to grab that thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah. So don't slack on those trail cams. We're trying to get on a buck right now, but we're also learning about this new doe bedding area that's just chocked full of does that we would have had no idea if we didn't have a cam up in there. You know, and we kind of had a good feeling about this spot, scouted it early, and really didn't do much with it a couple years ago. And I'm like, well, let's throw some stuff up there. It's kind of like an overlooked spot, and happened to be some ag there that probably would have been fire. You know, and you're going in there, hanging these cams. You're also scouting for next year, too. You're like, okay, this is no longer a hayfield. This is an ag field now. That changes
some shit.
the whole outlook. But all right, what you got else?
Next level deer supplements. Providing the feed and supplements are great, but most importantly, it's also to supply nutrition in times that Mother Nature cannot. So when the natural browse and the food plots are busting and good, they don't necessarily need all of that feed, but it's when that Mother Nature can't supply all of that a constant source of properly formulated supplements is the only guarantee that can be offered year-round to ensure that overall herd health.
Yeah.
So getting them fawns out on the right foot is definitely key.
Feeding right now is the best for does and for the bucks. Like getting
everybody
the nutrients, everybody needs it. Cold weather's coming, snow's coming. I got Right On Optics. Guys, we're working on lining up to get the owner of their company to come on here and really dive into these optics, really dive into the story of, why he created the brand and how, he represented. We talked about it multiple times, but he's a police officer, he's a veteran, and he's making a lifetime warranty product that he's guaranteed that you have a replacement within 72 business hours. He's trying to bring the best customer service possible, and if you see like a trend with us, that's kind of who we try to work with. Is like Exodus, really good customer service. Next Level, really good customer service. We're not only working with just random companies, we're working with people that are solid dudes that want to put out a really good product and not just make an ass load of money. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to have him on. That should be coming out after the first of the year. He's a busy guy, so lining it up might be a little strategically hard, but we're going to make it happen for you guys. I feel like this is not an optic that's known very well for hunting, but for cost...
Definitely more tactical.
Yeah, for cost-wise, for their scopes with a lifetime warranty, pretty damn solid. Right in the game with a lot of the other people out there. So I'm excited to get some of their optics on my muzzle loader and give it a rip. So, all right, what else we got? Last breath?
Yeah, the hunt that Grant and Jake did last year in December in Nebraska, muzzle loader, is out and live, and that's a good one to watch. Some late season action out there, something that Cody and I are looking into here in not next year, but the following year, so 2023.
Yeah, Muley's going to get it.
2023.
2023.
Yep.
Got antelope to focus on.
Yep.
And maybe an early season whitetail. I'm not sure.
Oh, geez, here we go again. Every this is a conversation every year.
Every year. we just want to kill them all.
I need to be in 6 places at once.
Use the Black Rifle code Whitetail Legacy, get you 20% off any purchase from Black Rifle Coffee. What else we got? Anything?
And the Badlands code.
Oh yeah, Badlands code. If you guys are looking for something to warm up for late season, hook us up look us up. We'll give you the hookup on the code. So, all right, guys, let's get into the show. All right, guys, we got Kyle on tonight. We're going to do a Legend of the Woods series. We know you guys love these, and we're going to be talking about a buck named Ed. That's an awesome name. You're like, oh, Ed's coming. So before we get into the story, Kyle, go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, my name's Kyle Chaney. I'm a professional off-road racer. I've been with Factory Can-Am now for over a decade, almost 12 years. I race side-by-sides for Can-Am, and I also race Pro 4 in like a short course series, an off-road truck.
Nice, man. That's a badass job. Can't beat that.
I would say one of the last Legend of the Woods series we did, guy drove a monster truck.
Yeah.
Legit monster jam, monster truck. Like, just... Yeah. Getting something off-road, you're going to kill a giant.
Yeah.
That's what we're picking up on.
Yeah.
You know, like my racing season is like all summer and like early fall. And then I have like, the races aren't nearly as like, we don't have nearly as many races like in the fall and winter. So, you know, I get that time to hunt.
Nice.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that works out good. Oh, man, that heater on my feet feels great. Just kick that thing on. That feels awesome. But yeah, man, so the story of Ed, we'll share a picture with our listeners on the cover art of the episode, but appreciate you coming on, telling the story of this deer. I seen the deer, and I'm like, man, this thing is just epic. Like, it's got everything going on the one side, and then it's just got an absolute epic side. So as best as you can, you know, if someone hasn't seen the cover art, go ahead and describe what this deer looks like, and then get into the story.
All right. Well, if you would only see his left side, you would be for sure it was from a high fence. Like there points everywhere. It's got like 4 drop tines on one side. The one side scored 115 inches. And then the other side, you would think that I don't even know what you think. Literally, the rack goes down. Like doesn't even have a point that goes up besides the brow tine. It just goes straight down. It's really weird, but it's because the deer was hit by a car. But that's why it has a funky side. But yeah, it's just like if the other one side matched, if both sides matched, you'd be for sure the thing would be from a high fence.
Yeah. I mean, that one side, you're like, God, this thing's got everything, going on. Drop tines, bunch of points, good frame, good brows. And then the other side, you're like, damn. Like, it makes it better that it just goes straight down because the rarity of it, it probably didn't score as much, but just the rarity of it is so incredible. You know what I mean? And how much mass it had on the beam had on that side was crazy too. It's like a damn club out there. He's just rocking around,
Yeah, I mean, he was a 3-point on his right side.
Yeah.
And the deer's 189 with 3 points on one side. So
that's crazy, man. Yeah. Did you have any past history with this deer or anything like that?
Yeah. I kind of got it. It's a fairly decent story. So, I've known the deer since he was 3.5. I got a couple pictures of Velvet of the deer at 3.5 years old. He was just a mainframe 8, nothing special, just probably maybe 130-inch mainframe 8. And that's the last I seen him, just Velvet pics. Never saw him again. The next year, never seen him at all. I was shed hunting the woods, and I found both his sheds. That was when he was 4.5, and at 4.5, like I said, I have both sheds. He was still a mainframe 8, and he was 146 inches with no inside spread. So he pretty big 8-pointer, a lot of mass. And then the next year, I didn't see him. No trail camera pictures of him, but there was a bunch of rumors going around about him, about a guy hunting a 180-inch deer not far from where I found the deer sheds the year before. And the guy got a shot at him and actually shot him. This was in October. And like I said, this is rumors. I know it's true, but, whether it's the same deer or not, I'm pretty sure it is. There's not just, 180-inch deer running around this area. We get 150s, 160s, and every now and then we'll get a deer like that. But, this area, there's not just booners running around it like crazy. But so I'm pretty sure it was the same deer. He got shot. The guy couldn't find him, got a dog. The dog tracked him for a long time. They never found him. I guess the guy that was tracking him with the dog said that the way the dog is acting, the deer's probably going to live. I guess they can smell, the deer's not giving off, whatever it does when it dies. So I guess anyway, a month or two later, this guy ended up getting pictures of the deer again. So the deer ended up living. I know he never got another shot at it. I did happen to see some trail camera pictures of it from that year. And I'm pretty sure it was the same deer. It was a big, huge mainframe 8 with kickers everywhere. It had kickers off both its G2s, kickers coming off the bases. Like he had a bunch of kickers. So pretty 100% for sure. It was the pictures that I saw were definitely the deer that I have the sheds of, and definitely were Ed. Well, sometime in between that year, so that would have been 5.5. So Ed was 6.5 the year I shot him, which was this year. So anyway, sometime between when that guy shot him and this year, before season, he got hit by a car or a truck or something. He had a broken rear hip. And I've got a bunch of video and stuff of him. I haven't made like a video yet to release, but I have quite a bit of footage. I probably got 30 minutes of footage of him. But anyway, when I first started getting pictures of this deer this year, we just, it's kind of me and my buddy from PA. He comes out to Ohio and hunts with me, and we'll go up and I'll put my trail cameras up, and then he came out, and I was out trail camera, so we put his trail cameras up, and they were cell cams. And we weren't getting any pictures, no pictures, no pictures. And finally, he's like, hey, why don't you go move my camera? I'm like, I'm not moving it. I'm like, something's going to come out eventually. And he's like, no, there's nothing there. I've just been getting like some raccoons. I'm like, no, you need to leave the camera there. And this was like 2 weeks before season. Well, right when season opens, Ed shows up on his camera. And like I said, he's from PA, and I just let him hunt my spots. And he sent me pictures of him, and I didn't think he was anything special. Like the trail camera pictures, he's big, but I really didn't think it was the same deer because, he had, like I say, he'd been hit by a car and he had all the drop tines, and like the one side was messed up. And, I didn't really, mark him as a shooter. And I actually told Chris I didn't think I wanted him shot because in the trail camera pictures, he kind of looks young. And, usually I target booners. The last 5 of 7 years I've shot a booner. So, I usually target like older animals. So, I didn't want him shot because he didn't look that big. Well, anyway, a lot of my up and comers last year got shot. So I really wasn't hunting a deer this year. And early October, I'm like, I'll go out and sit, and just kind of see what he looks like. So I went out because we had pictures of him coming into this bean field pretty regularly during daylight hours. So I was like, I'll go out there and sit and see if he comes. I had a good wind. So I set up. I do a lot of hunt and hangs. That way I can hunt the wind. I'm a big wind hunter. So I sat like 80 yards downwind of where he usually walks out about 5:30. And this was in October. So he walks out about 5:30 with probably about 3 hours of daylight left. And was in this bean field just milling around, and I've got my video camera and I'm videoing him. And he said he's about 80 yards, and I'm pretty good. I'd shoot a deer at 80 yards as long as they're like eating or not paying attention. I feel like I can shoot 100 pretty consistently with my crossbow. I shoot a Hoyt RX5, so I'm pretty confident with my bow. And I practice out back. I shoot 60 to 80 yards, all the time. So, but anyway, I wasn't even planning on shooting him. He walked out, and I'm just sitting there videoing and watching him. And I get about 15, 20 minutes of video, and the wind switches for like 3 seconds. The wind switches, and it switches back. Well, it was enough for him to get a whiff of me. And he starts kind of looking around and couldn't really tell what was going on. He didn't move for a while. Anyway, he ends up walking back in the woods. And while he's walking back in the woods, I'm like, I need to shoot this deer. I'm like, I'm an idiot. I need to shoot this deer. So as he's walking back in the woods, I'm not going to shoot him, but I'm like, dang, I just messed it up. Like, there goes my shot. I just winded. This deer just winded me. I'm probably never going to see him again. I'm like, I messed it up. I should have shot him by the 30 minutes I was watching him. So anyway, I go home that night, and I'm looking at the footage. I'm like, man, this deer is way bigger than I thought. So I'm like, I'm going to start hunting this deer. So anyway, the next day I go out, I have a good wind again, and he doesn't show. I'm like, well, I ruined it. Like he winded me the first day, and an old deer like that, a 6.5-year-old deer, you might not get another shot. Well, anyway, the day after that, this is hot. It's hot this October, and we're getting a lot of. Usually we have like a prevailing west wind, where we're getting a lot of east winds. So I kind of have to switch up the end that I'm hunting on. So I switch ends. And anyway, he comes back out the same spot he did the night that I seen him from the other tree. And this time I'm like 120 yards away. So, but I couldn't sit there because I had a bad wind. So anyway, I see him and I watch him, video him some more. And I get down and I go home. I tell some of my buddies what's going on. They're like, well, you need to hunt him, like get closer. I'm like, well, the only way I can hunt him closer to where he's been coming out is if I get on the ground. And I hate hunting on the ground. Like I know better than just to hunt on the ground. There's no trees like the row where he's coming out, like to get a shot. I couldn't get set up in. Like I just hate hunting on the ground. Like I feel like you're way more likely to get busted hunting on the ground. So, but anyway, I made a bad judgment call, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go hunt on the ground. So I literally sat on the edge of the woods where he's been coming out like 40 yards downwind. And instead of him coming out there that night, I hear like a crack behind me. He walks out into the bean field 20 yards behind me. And like I said, I'm looking at where he's usually coming out. There's like some fallen down like tree, and I'm like looking to where he usually comes out, and I'm sitting on the ground waiting for him to walk out where he usually does. and I hear a stick crack behind me, and there he is. He's looking at me 20 yards behind me, and I'm sitting on the ground, and like I said, I can't move. I have my neck turned around like 180 degrees. You know how it is. You turn your neck and you're trying to look out the corner. You're sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, you idiot. Like, I just ruined it, really ruined it this time. Well, he runs back into the woods, and there's probably 30 minutes of daylight left. I just walk out. I'm pissed. Like, I knew better than to sit on the ground. Like I just knew better. If I'd have been in the tree I was in the first day, I would have killed him. So the next day I go out, no show. Yep, I was for sure ruined it. But the beans were still kind of green in that field where he was coming out. And by that time, they were pretty much all of them were brown. And so the night after that, he doesn't come out either into that bean field. And so I'm like, well, maybe he's switching. So I the night after that, I set up in a tree where I can almost see the whole woods. Like, I know I'm not going to shoot anything from here, but I know I can at least, if he does come out of this woods, because there's beans on the other sides of this woods too. So I can at least see if he's coming out like on the other side of the woods. Well, that next night, he does come out, but he comes out and there's a little bit of grass, like that's green. He comes out and he's like eating in this grass, like, I don't know, 10 minutes before dark. Like, he's coming out later and later. And this time, like, maybe 10 minutes of shooting I left, but I'm 300 yards away. Like I said, I'm more or less in like an observation stand. So I'm like, okay, well, if he's coming out right there, the wind for tomorrow's good. Like, so I'm going to set right there where he came out. Well, the next day I go in, I'm hunting only in evenings. Cause like I said, it's in October and, I don't like hunt mornings in October. Well, anyway, I go in there in the evening, I get in, trying to get in early. There's construction workers in the field where I don't know if they're fixing a field or something, but they've got an excavator back there and they're digging up this field where he came out into, changing like the field tile or something. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So anyway, I'm like sitting there and I'm pondering where to go. Cause like I said, I hunt and hang. Well, the wind for the side of the woods that I want to hunt on, and the reason I want to hunt on this side of the woods is because it was winter wheat. So they planted the beans there late and the beans on this side are still green. So I'm like, he's probably not going to come out into the field he usually comes out into, the beans where I first saw him. He's definitely not going to come out into this grass field where these construction workers are working. Farmer workers are working. So I'm like, maybe he will come out into these beans that are still green. Well, the wind was blowing directly into the woods, like if I would have sat on that side. But I knew where he bedded. Pretty much from the trail camera that we were running, I knew he was bedded within 30 to 50 yards of this trail camera because we were getting him in the mornings coming in and we were getting him in the evenings coming out. So I knew he was bedding like right there. So I knew I could get into this woods and sit on the edge of it with my scent blowing into the woods, but it would be at a crosswind to him. So he could walk to this bean field with the wind at his face and feel safe. But I'm going to set far enough down to where when he's coming from his bed, he's not going to smell me. I'm going to get him at a crosswind. I'm like, and for sure, right when I set up, I knew he was going to come in that night, just the way that the wind was blowing. I'm like, with him, knowing there's construction workers out in this field, he can come to this field that's still green, have the wind in his face. He's for sure coming, so I've got everything set up. And this year, like, my goal was to video my kill. Like, usually I just hunt and I don't video. And like I said, to hunt and hang, it's so hard to take a video camera and everything else. So, but that was my goal this year. So I got all my video stuff set up. And, well, actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When I got to where I wanted to hunt, there was a creek, and the creek had like a big hill coming down into the bottom. And I'm like, I knew he was injured. So I'm like, I know if he's going to cross this creek to go into this field, he's going to cross it in the lowest, easiest spot he possibly could. So I'm like, I need to be downwind of this spot. So it took me, like, when I was sitting there picking out a tree, I bet it took me 20 minutes to pick out, the right tree to get up in. Well, so I got up in this tree, sitting there a couple hours, and I have a doe run in, and she's running in like she's being chased. And 5 minutes after she comes in, she kind of sees me. She doesn't smell me, but I'm in a tree that is kind of open. I didn't want to be in it, but it was pretty much the only one I could get into to get a shot at this creek crossing. Well, she sees me. She doesn't know what I am, but she knows I'm up there. So she's trying to bust me. And this little buck comes in, and this little buck is the one that I always see with Ed. He's always with Ed. I'm like, usually when Ed's there, like this little buck is there. Well, he chased her in there. That's this doe. He was messing around with this doe. Well, this doe is at the bottom of my tree looking straight up at me, trying to bust me, and I can't move. Like, so I can't grab my bow. I can't grab the camera. I can't do nothing. Like, I'm not even moving my head. I'm just kind of moving my eyes, like looking at this doe trying to bust me. I'm like, she blows, it's over. Like, this is going to be horrible because I know Ed's coming. Well, 2 minutes later, here comes Ed straight towards me, straight towards the creek where he's going to cross. And like, I kind of looked down. I couldn't get to my camera because this doe was trying to bust me. Well, anyway, I wait till Ed gets about 20 yards and he gets his head behind a tree. And I just grab my bow, and in one motion, I just pull it back, and he steps beyond this tree. And I knew, like, if the doe blew, he was I'd at least be able to get a shot at him. Well, he stepped out, and I shot him at 15 yards, and he goes 40 yards and piles up. But it sucks. I got the ending of it on film because I grabbed the camera and got him like falling over. But, I kind of, didn't achieve my goal because, like I said, I really wanted to get it on camera. But, man, with that doe there, I was just like, I knew if she blew it, it was going to be over.
Yeah, self-filming's tough, man. You're always like, I'll have the camera right here ready, won't have to move much, and then some situation like that happens where you're like, I either kill now or it's not and you got to decide what you want to do. And I would have killed too, and we film heavily, and we're always like, if it comes down to it, we're hunters first, kill. We're videographers second, because it's fun. So gotta make the kill. But crazy how many encounters you had, in a role there. So you started open. When was the first day that you hunted him?
It wasn't opening day because our opening day is the end of September. And like I said, I wasn't even going to hunt the deer. I was trying to find other deer to hunt. And, I didn't have any luck all year finding anything. And like, I literally just went out to set that day because I wanted to see what he looked like. And I wasn't even planning on hunting him. It was the middle of October. I think October 8th is when I first started hunting him. And I think it took me 7 days to kill him.
And you had, 4 or 5 encounters in those 7 days? Or
yeah.
Man,
yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Dedicated to bedding in there for sure.
Dedicated, bedded in there. And then seems like, he winded you once, bumped once, but it sounded like he was injured and he just didn't want to go anywhere. He's like, I'm good here. I winded him. I'm safe. I don't want to go anywhere. I know where I'm at. I got food on each side. He's got a little sanctuary there where he thinks he's good. And he's like, one bump ain't going to push me out of here. I'm going to chill. But that's something we're always worried about. Like, you push the envelope early and you bump them, how much are you going to affect it? But it sounds like you made the right call and we're the same about hunting on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
We always talk about it, but when it comes down to it, you just can't see anything. Deer comes in behind you. And I feel like you got to, a lot of shit's got to play out when you hunt in a tree, but when you hunt on the ground, like, it's multiplied by 2. Everything's got to be perfect. So.
Yeah, I'm not a ground hunter, and I've done it before. I've hunted a long time. Since I was 16, I got into bow hunting, and, I've always hated hunting on the ground. I knew it was a mistake when I did it. Even when I first sat there, I knew it was a mistake. I didn't want to sit there. I wanted to move. And, I don't know. I'm old enough and I've hunted enough that I should have known better than that. Because really that could have been the end of it. I don't know if he couldn't smell me. He just kind of seen that I wasn't supposed to be there. So I don't know. I don't think he knows I was a human or whatever. He just knows I wasn't supposed to be there. So yeah. I did get lucky that around he wasn't able to smell me. But, when I went home that night, I was like, that's over with. I'm never going to see this deer again. Like, I ruined it. And like I said, you know how it is those nights. You don't sleep. All you do is think about it. And, and then the next day when I didn't see him, I knew for sure I ruined it. And by the time shotgun comes, this deer's going to get killed, because he injured. And, this area is pretty heavily, like, driven by gun hunters. They drive it. So, and actually after I killed him, I went back in and found his bed. He was bedding within 25 yards of the camera that I had. He was bedding against a big log that was right there. It was like you had to like go through like this big canopy, like you almost had to crawl into it. But it was pretty cool, like to see where he actually bedded and stuff. And, and it was easier once I knew that that's where he bedded. It was easier to kill him, because if I didn't know where he bedded, I would have never hunted that side of the woods, because the wind was blowing into the woods. I would have never have done that if I didn't know where he bedded. But since I knew where he bedded, I knew that he would be coming at a crosswind to there, thinking he was safe because he's got the wind in his favor. But, in reality, he doesn't.
Yeah. And a lot of people listening to this will be like, oh, how did you not know that was a shooter on trail cam? We've been there.
Yeah.
Sometimes those trail cams make deer look 30 inches bigger, and sometimes it makes them look 30 inches smaller. We found a deadhead a few years ago. It was a prime example. It's like a 150 class deadhead, and we were thinking it was like a 125. It was quartering away, kind of walking away at an angle, and we were like, oh, that's a nice deer.
In like that gray area, gray light.
It's a nice deer, but it's nothing, really that to get too excited. And then we find him dead, and I'm like, oh, that's that buck we got on cam. And we're like, shit, this is a lot better than you think. So I could see where you're like, man, his one side's messed up. You're used to killing, giant deer, so you're maybe not interested in him. But the 4 drop times would have been hard for me to pass up. I'd have been like, I don't care how big he is. I got to get in there.
Yeah, like I said, when I first seen him, like I really thought he was younger. Like the first couple pictures we got of him, it was all daylight stuff, and he just didn't look that old. I'm like, man, this deer needs another year for sure. And it really, like, once we started getting a little better pictures of him, like, okay, maybe he is 4.5, 5.5, maybe. And then, once he stepped out into the field and I seen him in person, and I saw how big he was, and you could see his face, and like, oh my God, that's a bigger deer. And it took me a while to figure out what deer it was. With the drop tines and stuff, it took me a while to figure out it was that big 8-point that I had, because he didn't have drop tines the year before. So yeah, it took me a while to even figure out it was him. And once I figured out it was him, I'm like, oh, this deer is 6.5 years old. Like, the reason his rack's messed up is because he got hit by a car and shot the year before.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
guy's having a hell of a year.
Had a heck of a year.
I wonder, we thought something happened to Pickles, right? Like he got hit or something.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, when they get hit, they're so worried about getting food because they've been in such a state of
shock
survival
that
they get out earlier in October. Like, they're not afraid of daylight because they're like, man, I got to get food.
Yeah.
Because that deer was like daylight as hell, consistent, and he was hurt.
And he didn't go nowhere.
Yeah, and this deer didn't go nowhere. And this same thing as you, he's hurt, and he's daylight, and he's not going anywhere. Homie killed a buck opening evening that we targeted this year, and it was the same thing. He was in a really small woodlot, daylight damn near every day, like hot as hell, nice temp, this wind. He was just daylight there, going out to this field. So I wonder if there's something, if you do have an injured deer, they're so like dead set on like, I have to get this nutrients to get in shape because I'm already behind for the rut. I got to get, I'm already in the hole, so I got to commit to getting up early and getting out there and eating. So
yeah, we had that same conversation like while I was hunting, and me and my buddy in PA, looking at the trail camera pictures, and from me, having eyes in the field and what time he's coming out. Like, yeah, we had that same conversation. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it plays games with them, and they think they need to get more nutrients in them. But he was in a very safe area. I don't really know. I mean, I know pretty much all the hunters around here, and it doesn't get bow hunted. It was probably only a gun hunted area. So no one had even been in there yet. A human had stepped foot in there. Like, there's no houses anywhere close, like super, super secluded. Like, the deer, like I said, I found his sheds there 2 years ago. So, that must have been his, winter, summer area, which is, up to a deer is a safe place. So, that was probably and after he got shot, across the road, and came back, it was probably he just thought he was safe there, which, he really was, for most of his life.
So when you seen the deer in person, was his body what you would think it was like a 6.5-year-old would be, or was it kind of like you thought he looked on trail cam? Because Pickles, his body was, I mean, it's still early, October 1, but his body wasn't overly massive by any means.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
So, but when he got hurt, you feel like, okay, they're losing weight, obviously, so their body size is smaller. So he was, did you see that, or did it look like a 6.5-year-old body?
No, this deer was huge. Like when he walked out and he was huge from 80 yards. Like he was huge. And then like another 2.5-year-old walked out, and you could see how like he was twice. Like he was a big deer.
That's a good way to judge them. When you got 2 out there, you're like, damn, that one.
Yeah.
Or like when you got 2 on the ground, you can put them side by side. You're like, damn, this one's head's just so much bigger, than that one. But Pickles and our thing, he went downhill from the year before, but he did have some kind of injury. We're not sure exactly what it was. He just had a big scar during summer on trail cam on his back hip, and the left side.
Yeah, no, his right side.
His right side was way weaker than the year before. He was probably high 160s, and he was like 154 this year. So he dropped 10 inches on that one side, pretty much, and it was the opposite side of the injury. So was this deer's rack the opposite side of the injury?
Yeah, it was the opposite side of the injury, which kind of, makes me wonder what if he would, like, if he could have been a 250-inch deer.
Yeah.
Like I said, I head's at 4.5, and, he was, let's say you put an 18 to 20-inch spread on him, that'd have been a mid-160s 8-point with no kick, just straight up 8.
Yeah.
So,
we had a Legend of the Woods, he was 3.5.
Yeah,
170, 180?
Like a 183, I think.
Yeah.
8-pointer.
And he had an age, and he was 3.5. So
wow.
Yeah. He said he got the teeth back, and he was like, man, but he said his body was smaller when he shot him and stuff, and that's why he wanted to age him, because he's like, man, this deer looks small.
But I mean, when you got a 180-inch frame on you and you only got 8 points, I mean, your body might look small.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't know the deer from previous years, then
that's one thing. You send both your teeth in, right?
Yeah. I'm hopefully pick them up tomorrow.
I probably should do Kevin, just so he got more of a reference. Like,
you still have it?
Yeah, he's still in the skull. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So at least we have 3 of them to look at.
Yeah, it's like $36.
$36. Yeah. We'll tell them to rip them
Okay.
out. But
all right.
Yeah, that's interesting. If you don't have history with the deer, and you had sheds and stuff to be able to piece it together and history, but when you don't have history of the deer, to go out there and try to age something, it's pretty hard, because some deer just body styles are different than others, and it's something that we're still working on to kind of get a really good idea of, okay, this is a 5-year-old, this is a 6-year-old, because I feel like once they get past 4, it's kind of blurry for us. They're big bodied, they got a big barrel chest on them, and then you could tell something that's like past 6, 7. You're like, damn, this thing's old looking. We got one buck. You should kill that thing. That thing's got to be like 12. It's like got like probably 8-inch bases, and it's a fork horn with a bunch of kickers off of it on one side, and what's the other side? A spike?
It's just a point.
A point, and just dwarfs everything that we got on cam.
Yeah, there's a video of him hitting a scrape, and then like a 1.5 or a 2.5-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing can barely reach the limb.
Yeah.
But Kyle, when you found out or figured it out that Ed was this 8-pointer that you had, did anything in your brain click to help you kill him? I know he was just kind of there and hanging out, but did any historical things pop into your brain? Because we've kind of had that happen to us where we're hunting, we see a deer, and as this story is, like, we got trail cam pics, so we're not really sure exactly what the deer is, but then when we see him and we look back at the film or something, we're like, oh, hey, yeah, and then, oh, shit, we had pictures of him last year, and then the ball's rolling, and we're trying to get a game plan to really, really hunt him hard. When you finally figured out it was that 8-pointer, did anything come in to play there?
Well, I didn't really figure it out until probably a couple days before I actually killed him. And, because I had registered in my head a couple times, but I'm like, there's no way, it can't be him. That was from trail camera stuff. And then when I first started hunting him, wasn't really thinking about it. And then, once I bumped him a couple times and had, them scares a couple times, you start thinking more and more. And I'm like, man, though, in this piece of woods where I was hunting him it's really weird. It's like there'll be a good deer there about every 8 years. And, and when I say good, boonerish, there's, in the years prior to that, you may get a 120. Like it's really odd. And like I said, when I, the year I found his sheds, I didn't even have pictures of him that year. Like there, he must have just been in a really small area and didn't even come near my trail camera, which was in the same woods. Just never had pictures of him. But, no, I knew he liked that area. And I knew he probably wasn't going to leave or at least go back to where he was. Like I said, he had been shot across the road. And, I wasn't really scared of him leaving too much because I kind of underestimated him at first. When I first saw him and saw him walking and knew he was injured, I'm like, I didn't even think he was probably leaving his bed more than 100 yards. Like I didn't figure he would, but like the longer I hunted him in them couple of days, I saw him and coming out 200 yards down or 250 yards down or 300 yards down. And when he came out into the grass, it was like 400 yards from where I first seen him come out. So he was moving way more than I originally thought. Like I figured he was just coming out that one opening, going to the bean field and going right back to bed because I just figured he was that hurt. But I don't think he was. Like from where I shot him, when I killed him to his bed was probably 300 yards. So, he was still traveling. Like it definitely, he could still run. Like when he busted me on the ground, he ran into the woods. Like I have a video, I have quite a bit of video, and I have a group of YouTube guys that are going to put a video together actually tomorrow. They're going to start putting the footage together. So people will be able to see what he looked like when he was walking and stuff. And what I first saw when I seen him from the tree stand and everything else. So, it just sucks I don't have the kill shot, but no, I don't think when it really helped me at all. More or less, I was just, concerned about getting the job done because I'd screwed up so many times. I didn't figure, I would, I'd still be able to get a shot at him. I figured he'd probably go totally nocturnal.
Yeah, that's definitely a scare that early in the season to, you're like, man, a couple times on this deer and he's going to be out the game. So after you killed him, you went back to, his bed. And do you think that was pretty much the only spot he was bedding, or do you think he was bedding on different winds, or was that it?
I think so like I said, we didn't get of him, and we had a camera in there, all summer, and we didn't start getting pictures of it until right before season, which I think the reason is because these fields around where I was at, so I think he moved from somewhere else into there. They were still green. Like the beans still had some green to them. And like when the other fields were starting to turn, I think when he came in, the other fields were already starting to turn and he came into this woods. And I'm pretty sure that was the only spot he was bedding because we were getting him almost every morning and almost every evening leaving and coming in from the same spot. So I'm pretty sure, if he did bed somewhere else, it was very sporadically. This was his main bed, and he bedded there from almost, I'd say, the first trail camera picture that I got of him, which was right before season, to probably 3 weeks later when I killed him. I think he bedded. I bet he bedded in that same bed every evening for 3 weeks.
That's the same thing I think about Pickles.
Yeah.
He's in that same bed.
Same bed every day.
No matter what the wind.
I would say, and it's nice to have that cell camera in there, just sending you the picture. You don't have to go in there and check it, and then you're just getting the pics every time he's there, And so every day. You're like, okay, yeah, still there, still there, still there.
You hear a lot of people talk about, well, he switched beds with the wind this day, and then he J-hooked in. And I think some deer, they got a good spot. They just bed there regardless of what. They might exit it different, but I think once they're in there, they're like, I'm chill, and I'm going to be in here. Because it goes to show you that deer was in there for 19 days on the same bed and come out the same exact way,
Yeah.
no matter what the wind. So I think a lot of people are like, got to have this wind. You're overthinking a lot of these deer. If they're in a good spot and they're not getting pressured, I feel like they're like, I'm good here. I'm just going to go bed there.
Yeah, that was his main bed. Like, literally, you couldn't see into it. Like, you could be 10 yards from his bed at almost any angle, and you would not have been able to see him. Like, you would have had to, like, it was so thick where he was at. And there was 2 beds there against this log. And one of them was, because when I went in there to find his bed, it was the next day. Because I kind of wanted to learn a little more about him. So, I wanted to see if actually where he's bedding. So I went back on the trail he was always coming out of, and sure enough, there was 2 beds right there laying up against this big log. And when I went in there, and I'd walked around it a little bit, and it took me like 10 yards. Like, when I got 10 yards from it, that little buck got up and ran out of there. So that little buck could get within 10 yards of him before he got up. And there was just 2 beds right there against the log. And like I said, it was super safe for him. And, I don't think, during the rut, yes, of course, that they'll bed, and, they'll bed where they can, win predators and, check those. But, during October, I don't think they're moving from their core bed.
Yeah, if they're not pressured, I feel like they're in their area early season, the first 2 weeks, and they're just chilling. They're like, okay, I'm safe here. So, and it seems like a lot of times everybody that we know that kills early they're off. It's off the bed. Like, they're going in
100% off the bed.
Off the bed. They found this bed. They found out how this deer is going to exit it, and they go in, and boom, he does it. You know what I mean? So that's something to think about if you're going in there early. Even if you bump this deer, you bet you should throw another set at it, because if he's safe in there, he's going to be back.
And
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask a different question, so go ahead and finish this one up.
I was going to say, the easiest way, I think to kill a mature buck, especially early season and late season, is to find his bed. Like, if you can find out where the deer beds 90% of the time, you kill him. For sure, you will kill him, and, the only other, strategy I think that's just as good or better is during the rut, hunting downwind of bedding areas. That's the only, those are the 2, I think keys to killing big deer. Hunt downwind of doe bedding areas during the rut and spend your time and find out where that buck beds. You may have to spend a week or 2 or a couple sits where you're just throwing the sits away. You're probably not going to shoot anything, but, you might be able to find out where he's coming out. Like I said, I set that one set literally in the middle of a field in a fence row just so I could see, him exiting the field. So I think that's a big key to killing mature bucks, is finding where they bed.
Did you get to see where the neighbor shot him the year before?
No, but so I know a friend of a friend that knows this guy. So I know the property where it was shot. Yeah. And he shot it out of the blind off the ground. But yeah, it was actually the guy was a property that, I used to hunt next to when I was a kid, but a lot of the land had been sold, and this guy had actually bought it to hunt. Like, it's a hunting property. I'm pretty sure the guy just hunts it. Like I said, I don't even know his name, just a acquaintance of a friend. And
that's how we get all our stories too. Of the bucks, the big ones that get killed around here. Well, it's like a guy that we know is friends of a friend that send him a text message, and then he sends me a picture of it, and I'm like, another giant gone. That's how it goes.
Yep, that's the deer.
That's the deer. Like, a lot of guys are like, you probably know this one. I'm like, oh, don't show me. You see it, you're like, damn, dude. Everyone we find is dead.
The story's probably bullshit, but 100% factual is the deer is dead.
Yeah. The story they tell us, you're probably like, but those big ones die. You're like, ugh. All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, we're about 40 minutes here. We appreciate you coming on and telling the story. I'm excited to watch the video. Absolute incredible deer. Congratulations again on putting the pieces together on him. And it sounds like you got a lot of slammers, but this one's got to look pretty sweet on the wall with all that character and everything it's got going on. So appreciate you coming on tonight and chatting with us, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, whenever you get the video together and stuff, send me a message and we'll share it up so people can watch it and get to watch the story after they listen to it. So
cool. I appreciate it, and thanks for getting me on your podcast. I listen to you guys quite a bit now. I travel a lot for racing. I just got back to California and Texas, and I listened to you guys, and then from listening to you guys, I started listening to that Don Higgins guy.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of agree with what he has to say on about everything except for his expandable broadheads.
yeah. Don's a goat, man. He's been killing big ones before we were out of diapers.
Yeah,
so we've had him on here before, and huge respect to that guy. I listen to his podcast quite a bit. Real knowledgeable and really good at manipulating structure to kill deer, which is very cool. Something that we're not able to do yet without not owning any ground or getting permission to really manipulate stuff, but it's in the works. But where can our listeners find you to see a couple more pictures of this buck or follow you on socials?
Yeah, I mean, I have an Instagram, Kyle Chaney. I really don't know, but like my I think it's Kyle Chaney _. I don't know. If you look Kyle Chaney up on Instagram, I'm sure you'll be able to find me. We'll be either racing or there. So
nice.
But that's usually where I'm mostly active is Instagram and Facebook. Just look up Kyle Chaney. I'm sure you'll be able to get.
When you make the Instagram, you don't think about like anybody wanting to find it, and ours is like whitetail _legacy _. I'm like, why did I put an underscore in that? I don't know what I was thinking. It's like it's not natural, but when you're doing it, like it has to be different. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this. It's got to be special characters.
Yeah, username taken. Well, I'll put a 2 on it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And then you're trying to tell someone how to find it. You're like, oh god. But all right, man. We appreciate you coming on and telling the story of Ed. All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. Like I said, we're going to be ripping more of these Legends of the Woods coming out. Also going to be talking, this is the time of year where a lot of people were successful, so I got some stuff lined up to talk to these people about why they're successful. What did they do different this year to make it happen? Is there anything that they learned that's like a huge eye-opener this year? So I don't think we're going to do a series of that, but I think we're going to have a trend of Legend of the Woods and, all right, you had super success this year. What was the difference? Like, what'd you do? You were able to get it done on your target buck. How is that possible? So that's kind of the route we're gonna do in the off season, and there'll probably be some BS podcasts in there, like we normally do. You know what I mean? So that's what you guys got coming to look forward to. Appreciate you hanging out all the way to the end. Like we always say, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys tuning into this podcast every Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or whenever you listen to it. We appreciate you're here. If you're not on Wednesday, it isn't prime rib, though. So
exactly.
You're on like a ribeye on Friday for sure. Like one of those really thin steak sandwich ribeye.
Yeah, steak.
Our content doesn't get better with age. You got to get it fresh right off the rip.
Yes.
But anyways, always try to do the right thing. Try to leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy is out.